Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to News9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi and we're bringing you this special broadcast of top stories from our studios here in the National Capital Region, styled exclusively by Paul Mall. We have an expansive list of stories for you to cover. Well, we are, of course, going to bring you the latest developments from the war front in that conflict in West Asia as Israel and Hamas's war enters the 43rd day. More than 12,000 Palestinians that have been killed, if Hamas officials' figures are to be believed. And at the same time, the expansion of IDF in south portion of the Gaza Strip is going to continue. According to IDF, it's going to expand to everywhere and anywhere that Hamas existed, and that includes south portion of the Strip, bringing you updates from there. In terms of climate change, because that is something that we must talk about every day, we're bringing you stories of a potential volcanic eruption in Iceland, how Kenya is tackling its plastic pollution problem, and at the same time we'll bring you the aftermath of the floods from a Greek village. We will also showcase top global updates. There's a latest picture of Xi Jinping that's going viral on social media from when he visited the United States' Golden Gate Bridge. But more so over ChatGPT, the CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, well, he stepped down after that, an entire crisis that has widened, and the Prime Minister of India, he's spoken about deepfake issues as well. That's going to be our focus, but first and foremost, national stories, domestic political developments, the Uttarkashi tunnel update that's coming up first. An update coming from Uttarkashi, where rescuers are working tirelessly to reach the 40+ trapped workers in Uttarkashi, but the workers have faced a setback. Now, the work to rescue the 40 stranded laborers was paused after a large-scale cracking sound was heard by teams working inside the tunnel, and that created a panic situation. It was suspended. People started moving out of the mouth of the tunnel. The laborers have been stranded for the last 7 days. Pipe pushing activity has been stopped. Mind you, there are about 6 large diameter pipes that the officials and the local authorities are trying to drill through the debris mound. 4 of those have already been put in. 5th one was being put in when suddenly the process had to be stopped. Now, to cope up with the situation, a meeting was also called with all the officials and other experts from various organizations. Now, what you're seeing on your television screens right now is in fact the new American auger drilling machine that has made its way to the mouth of the tunnel. Meanwhile, Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami, he's reviewing with senior officers the relief and rescue operations that happened this afternoon of the landslide incident. Also, the Disaster Management Office has updated the number of people trapped in the tunnel in the state to 41 from 40, and have assured at the same time that all the workers are safe, even though that they're trapped right now. Here's a quick update on the ongoing rescue efforts, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the rescue operations were put on hold after machine snag came to light on the 7th day. Rescuers have drilled about 24 meters into the Silkyara tunnel, inching ever so closer to the trapped workers. Workers inside have all the essential communication devices. They're talking through walkie-talkies, even as families anxiously await for more updates. We were just showing you those visuals. The new advanced auger machine transported from Indore has reached the tunnel site. Now, workers protest against tunnel administration over slow pace of rescue operation. Meanwhile, Odisha government has gotten in touch with all the officials and the local authorities on the ground for the safe rescue of the 5 trapped workers from the state of Odisha inside the Silkyara tunnel. The rescue plan, it is twofold, multi-pronged. It involves inserting steel pipes into the rubble. The 5th pipe and its insertion is underway. Now, I've already been speaking about plan A and plan B, but there's a plan C also. It involves digging another tunnel where the mouth of that particular tunnel leads to where the workers are trapped in that 2-kilometer area inside the Silkyara tunnel. Round-the-clock rescue involves about 165 personnel from various agencies. This even as a C-17 aircraft airlifted crucial equipment for the operation from Indore and brought it to Dehradun. Now, at the same time, it's important to note here that a temple has been built at the main entrance of the tunnel to pray for the stranded laborers. In Silkyara village, villagers seek to appease the local deity as well, amidst obstacles hampering the ongoing rescue operation. But there are experts that have been flown in from around the world. Chris Cooper, a micro-tunneling expert from Australia, has also made their way to the collapse site. He was there. He said, I've just made my way here. I'm trying to understand what's happening. But the latest reaction from this tunneling expert from Australia on your screens.
All the way from Norway, sir?
No. I'm working in India on another tunnel.
All right.
Okay.
What have they told you so far?
I'm still picking up the information at the moment, so I'm still picking up information at the moment. Okay.
The rescue operation has come to a halt from the last 17 hours, which is a big time.
Yeah, I've got no comment. I only came last night, so I think you better talk to Arvin or the people that are handling the operation.
Are you really sure that this thing will be done?
Yeah, I think so.
Any time soon?
Yeah, I think you better.
It's been a long time. This is the 7th day since the rescue operation.
Yeah, I've just arrived.
Well, from Uttarkashi, shifting our focus to Nadu, where a group of women who were on their way to perform a puja were allegedly pelted with stones from a madrassa in Nadu on about Thursday evening is when this report came to light. The act and the incident injured about 9 of them and caused the law and order tension in a town that had already witnessed communal clashes just about 4 months ago. Now, 3 minors, students of the madrassa, were apprehended and sent to a shelter home after being produced in a juvenile justice board. But the police have filed a case against unknown persons. Authorities are taking precautions to prevent any communal backlash. A huge police force was out on the streets of Nadu on Friday in the run-up to the weekend to thwart attempts of any communal backlash. Teams from the district administration conducted peace meetings like the one that you see on your screens with religious leaders and appealed to the people not to write posts on social media that could foment communal tensions further.
अभी तक इनमें जो महिलाओं की तरफ से जो कंप्लेंट दी गई है उसमें 354 और 323 एंड SC/ST एक्ट के तहत FIR दर्ज की गई है और जो मदरसे के अंदर एक फुटेज आया था जहां से लड़के खड़े थे तो उनके बेसिस पे 3 लड़कों की पहचान हुई है। तीनों लड़कों को राउंड अप कर लिया गया है और उनको अभी जुवेनाइल कोर्ट में पेश किया जाएगा। देखिए अभी इसमें 8 महिलाओं ने अपनी MLR कटवाई गई है और नॉर्मल इंजरीज है। देखिए अभी जो बच्चे राउंड अप किए गए हैं उनसे पूछताछ करी जा रही है कि इंसिडेंट क्यों हो गया, तो डिटेल में तो उनके पूछताछ के बाद में पता चल पाएगा। देखिए उसमें एक घटना का छोटा सा वीडियो सामने आया है, उसके बेसिस पे सारा जो भी वहाँ खड़े थे उनकी पहचान भी कर ली जाएगी और जो भी आरोप महिलाओं ने लगाए हैं उनके एक आरोप की जांच करवाई जाएगी। अभी स्थिति पूरी तरह से नियंत्रण में है, शांति है। दोनों कम्युनिटीज़ के लीडर सुबह बुला लिए गए थे। दोनों कम्युनिटीज़ में आपस में ऐसी घटना की पुनरावृत्ति ना हो इसके लिए एक सहमति बनाई गई है और आगे से ऐसे भी कोई शरारती बच्चे हैं तो जो भी इंस्टीट्यूट हैं उनके मालिकों को भी बुला के हिदायत दी गई है कि कम से कम उनको तहजीब सिखाएं, तमीज़ सिखाएं सबसे पहले, बाकी एजुकेशन बाद में होती रहेगी। देखिए उसमें इमाम से भी पूछताछ की जाएगी। अगर उनका इंस्टीट्यूशन है तो जिम्मेदारी उन्हीं की बनती है कि बच्चे कोई भी गलत हरकत के अंदर ना पड़े, उनकी जिम्मेदारी तो उन्हीं को लेनी पड़ेगी।
A major political development that's coming out of Bihar as well, where the state governor, Rajendra Vishwanath Arlekar, has approved the state government's Bihar Reservation Amendment Bill. Now, the bill was passed unanimously by the state legislature during the recently concluded winter session. It was approved by the state cabinet on the 7th of November and raises the reservation quota for backward, extremely backward classes, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes from the erstwhile 50% to 65%. A gazette notification is expected to be published in this very regard soon as well. With 10% already reserved for economically weaker sections, that's the EWS, the quota limit in Bihar has now been pushed to 75%, which is well past the 50% ceiling set by the Supreme Court. According to the bill, quota for extremely backward classes, EBC, will be raised from 18% to 25%. For backward classes, that's the BCs, it's going to be raised from 12% to 18%. For the scheduled caste, from 16 to 20%. And for the scheduled tribe, the quota will be doubled from 1% to 2%. But again, important to note here that the 3% reservation for backward classes women has now been scrapped. Moving on to Tamil Nadu, with the state chief minister M.K. Stalin, he's moved a special resolution expressing the state assembly's displeasure of the House about Governor R.N. Ravi withholding assent to 10 bills adopted by the state assembly. The House will readopt the bills after discussion and send them back to the governor. Now, Tamil Nadu Speaker Appavu said the bills will be passed and will be resent to the governor. This has already happened. The Tamil Nadu Assembly has in fact readopted all the 10 bills and will push them back in the governor's direction. Now, Tamil Nadu BJP MLA Vanathi Srinivasan said that today the BJP has walked out of the assembly opposing the government resolution of criticizing the governor and sending back the bills that have been passed earlier by this assembly. Meanwhile, the BJP says the governor is doing nothing but carrying out his constitutional duties.
Today, BJP has walked out of the assembly for the reason of opposing the government resolution of criticizing the Honorable Governor and sending back the bills that has been passed earlier by this assembly. Why we are opposing it? Since we believe in federalism, we believe that the Honorable Governor is discharging his constitutional obligations, and the state government is criticizing him of selecting as per his own whims and fancies. It is not true. Honorable Governor on all the occasions has followed the due process of law by announcing a select committee, and after select committees, all the process, Honorable Governor is selecting the Vice Chancellor in consultation with the state government. Why the state government nowadays are opposing this? It has been the practice for so many years in Tamil Nadu. Why now the DMK government is opposing? In fact, earlier, when the same kind of a situation has been arised during Madam Jayalalitha's government, that time they were telling that the educational institutions should not be converted into a political area. And the same thing that we want to tell to the Honorable Chief Minister, as the state government has no authority to control the educational institutions, and already an established norms are there, and there is no single instance of the corruption charges has been levelled against any Vice Chancellor that have been, those have been appointed by the Honorable Governor. But on the contrary, the DMK people who have contested in the election on behalf of the DMK seat and also who are having a close relationship with the DMK's families have been appointed as a Vice Chancellors, and there were many corruption charges against those Vice Chancellors.
And from Tamil Nadu to its neighbouring state, Karnataka, where the state BJP has announced R. Ashoka as the leader of opposition in the state assembly. The announcement comes after a delay of over 6 months. The decision was made after party observers held a one-to-one meeting with a few legislators at a private hotel in Bengaluru. The BJP is yet to decide upon a leader of opposition in the Legislative Council. Meanwhile, R. Ashoka, the man on your screens, is a 7-time MLA and also held the post of Deputy Chief Minister in the past. He's also the Revenue Minister of the previous Basavaraja Bommai government. Now, Ashoka's name was proposed by former Chief Minister Basavaraja Bommai himself and was seconded by former Minister V. Sunil Kumar. R. Ashoka is also seen as belonging to the camp of former Chief Minister and Senior Leader B.S. Yediyurappa. Now, R. Ashoka's bagging of the post of Leader of Opposition once again reaffirms Yediyurappa's hold over the party in Karnataka after his son B.Y. Vijayendra was appointed as the state chief of the party, and now R. Ashoka as the leader of opposition in the state assembly. Ashoka belongs to the Vocaliga community, and his appointment shows that the BJP is trying to maintain a balance between the two dominant communities in Karnataka, that is the Lingayats and the Vocaligas. But the appointment has already caused dissensions in the BJP state unit. Their MLAs, namely Basangauda Patil Yatnal and Ramesh Jarkiholi, are reportedly upset with the decision as they wanted the High Command to appoint a leader from North Karnataka for the position of the leader of opposition.
So our party, Narendra Modi ji, Amit Shah ji, Nadda ji, our General Secretary Santosh ji, and all our MLAs, today they elected as the opposition leader of Karnataka Assembly. I thanks my central leaders and all our MLAs, Mr. Yediyurappa ji and Bommai ji, all our party workers who supported me. My task is Mr. Vijayendra also with both coming election, parliament election, another 5-6 months, the parliament election is there. You have to give good result. Last time we have won out of 28, 25. This time you have a target. Out of 28, 28 will win. Because the JDS also joined NDA partner. So this also helps to us. So I elected as a opposition leader. I promise the people of Karnataka from last 6 months, the Congress government is not seeing any farmers, any poor people. They are infighting between Siddaramaiah and D.K. Kumar for the CM post. Already MLA selected CM Siddaramaiah, but D.K. Kumar MLAs, gang, 2 gangs, they are telling no, D.K. Kumar will be chief minister. Another 2 years or 3 years. That is the slogan. In one part, Siddaramaiah gang is speaking about another 5 years Siddaramaiah will be.
Well, another 5 years, I think that's too long a time for all the BJP leaders to be thinking about right now. Meanwhile, shifting our focus to international top global updates, and ChatGPT OpenAI is going to be our top story. Sam Altman, he is out as the CEO of OpenAI. He and OpenAI's wildly popular bot ChatGPT have become some of the most recognizable symbols of the generative AI craze over the past year. Now, the company says the board had lost confidence in Altman's ability to lead. It found that he was quote-unquote not consistently candid in his communications and says that it hindered the company's work.
I now am wrapping up the trip feeling quite optimistic.
Sam Altman is out as the CEO of OpenAI. He and OpenAI's wildly popular bot, ChatGPT, have become some of the most recognizable symbols of the generative AI craze over the past year. The company says the board lost confidence in Altman's ability to lead. It found he was, quote, not consistently candid in his communications, and says that hindered its work. The abrupt shuffle sent shockwaves across the tech industry and came as a surprise for many employees. ChatGPT came out last November. Backed by billions of dollars from Microsoft, it quickly became one of the world's fastest-growing applications. It can spit out human-like content by training on heaps of data. The company says OpenAI's chief technology officer, Mira Murati, will serve as interim boss while it searches for a permanent CEO. On social media, Altman said he loved his time at OpenAI and hoped it was transformative for the world.
But that's not all. The sacking of CEO Sam Altman seems to be having a wider fallout as 3 senior researchers at OpenAI resigned on Friday. Take a look at this. The 3 researchers are Jacob Pachoki, the company's director of research, Alexander Madri, who's the head of a team evaluating potential risks from artificial intelligence, and Simon Siror, a researcher at the company for the past 7 years. Now, the resignation from the 3 top researchers is the 4th overall resignation after the firing of CEO Sam Altman. President Greg Brockman was the first one to hand out his resignation. The departures are a sign of immense disappointment among some employees after Altman ousted and underscored long simmering divisions at the ChatGPT creator about AI quote-unquote safety practices. And it's important to talk about the safety practices of AI as well. There's the boon, but then there's the bane as well. On the other hand, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he expressed his concern over the misuse of AI technology. Prime Minister Modi flagged the misuse of artificial intelligence for creating deepfakes and termed deepfakes as one of the biggest threats in the coming years. PM Modi emphasized that deepfakes could be used to cause chaos in society, especially a multi-religious and multicultural society like India. He urged the media and the citizens to remain vigilant to the threat of deepfakes. Electronics and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav has informed that the government is planning to host a meeting with social media companies to discuss ways to counter the deepfake menace. PM Modi's statement comes just days after the deepfake actress Rashmika Mandana and Kajol went viral on social media and brought to the fore how deepfakes can be used to target celebrities and civilians alike.
2 चीजें मुझे लगती हैं. एक, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के कारण और उसमें भी डीप फेक के कारण जो एक नया संकट आ रहा है, भारत का बहुत बड़ा वर्ग ऐसा है कि उसके पास वेरिफिकेशन के लिए या ऑथेंटिफाई करने के लिए कोई उसके पास पैरेलल व्यवस्था नहीं है। और बाय एंड लार्ज आजादी की लड़ाई से लेकर के भारत में जिस भी चीजें से मीडिया शब्द जुड़ता है उसकी एक इज्जत है। जैसे कोई भी व्यक्ति हो गेरुए हुए कपड़े हैं तो हमारे यहां एक स्वाभाविक उसके विरासत में इज्जत मिल जाती है उसको, वैसा मीडिया को भी है, एक विरासत का लाभ उसको मिलता है। और उसके कारण डीप फेक हो तो भी वो भरोसा कर लेता है यार ऐसे थोड़ा आया होगा, कुछ तो होगा। और ये बहुत बड़े संकट की तरफ जाएगा समाज में, और शायद वो असंतोष की आग भी बहुत तेजी से फैला सकता है समाज जीवन की व्यवस्थाओं को। और ये बहुत मुश्किल काम होता है, बहुत मुश्किल काम होता है। मान लीजिए कहीं कोई एक गलत चीज ने कुछ नई समस्या पैदा कर दी, अगर सरकार को वहां पहुंचना है तो डिस्टेंस भी तो मैटर करता है। अब आपको तो डिस्टेंस समय मैटर ही नहीं करता है, तुरंत पहुंच जाता है। अगर लोगों को एजुकेट कर सकते हैं हम हमारे कार्यक्रमों के द्वारा कि आखिर है क्या, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस कैसे काम कर रहा है, डीप फेक क्या कर सकता है और कितना बड़ा संकट पैदा कर सकता है, और उसमें जो चाहे वो बना सकते हैं जी। मैंने अभी एक वीडियो देखा जिसमें मैं गरबे गा रहा हूं और मैं खुद भी देख रहा क्या बढ़िया बना है जबकि मैं स्कूल एज के बाद कभी मौका नहीं मिला मुझे। मैं स्कूल में बहुत अच्छा खेलता था, गरबे बहुत ही अच्छा खेलता था, लेकिन बाद में कभी मौका नहीं मिला। लेकिन अभी जैसे आज ही बनाया हुआ ऐसा वीडियो, ये आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की ताकत है कि उसने बना के रख दिया है और चल रहा है, और जो मुझे प्यार करते हैं वो भी इसको फॉरवर्ड कर रहे हैं मैं औरों का उदाहरण देना नहीं चाहता, इसलिए मैंने दिया नहीं, मैंने अपना ही दिया, लेकिन एक चिंता का विषय है जी।
Well, now moving on, we will talk about the Israel-Hamas war, but let's not forget there's another war that's going on vis-a-vis between Ukraine and Russia. Take a look at this next story. War-torn Ukraine has started building underground schools in the Kharkiv region, which will allow children to return to in-person learning. This, while the region faces constant threat of Russian airstrikes.
Ukraine's Kharkiv region has started building underground schools. The heavily fortified structures will allow children to return to in-person learning, while the region faces the constant threat of Russian airstrikes. Schools in the eastern region, which borders Russia, had to resort to online learning after the February 2022 invasion. Kharkiv is frequently targeted by Russian missiles, drones and artillery. The governor reported on Thursday that in 24 hours, 3 different districts had been struck. The chief district architect, Anton Korotovsky, said 2 schools are currently under construction.
Вони можуть витримувати пряме влучання ракет С-300. Також розраховані десь на 500 чоловік кожна. Також вони будуть обладнані.
The structures could withstand direct hits from S-300 missiles. They are designed to accommodate up to 500 people each. They will also be adapted to be accessible for people with physical disabilities. There will be restrooms, independent power sources, diesel generators, water supply, sewage, and everything required for the education process.
He added that more of these schools, which act as bomb shelters, will be planned by the end of the year. The buildings will be equipped with necessities like ventilation, water and beds so people can stay there for more than one day. Ukrainians are now bracing for another winter of possible Russian airstrikes targeting critical infrastructure. Last year, this caused widespread blackouts across the country.
Ukrainians now bracing for another winter amid the war. But it's not just the Ukrainians. Millions of Russian families are having to cut back due to significant changes forced on Russia's economy by the war in Ukraine and the myriad of sanctions imposed by the West.
In grocery stores across Russia, prices have been soaring. Families are having to cut back as they grapple with high inflation caused by the war in Ukraine and a myriad of sanctions imposed by the West. Mother of two, Daria Stepanova, is among them.
One of my kids is 5. Another one is a newborn. And I can see how much everything has become more expensive in the course of these 5 years. Pampers are 2 to 3 times more expensive now. Baby food is now 4 times more expensive.
She's trying to make ends meet on the 50,000 rubles, about $550 a month, that her husband earns. The ruble has fallen against the US dollar since the war began in February 2022, making the price of imported goods climb. And all this comes ahead of the 2024 election, where Vladimir Putin is expected to run again, in a move that would keep him in power until at least 2030. Official statistics show that over 15 million Russians are living below the poverty line. Russian economist Igor Lipitz says the situation is even worse than what the Kremlin reports. He estimates about 20 million people could be in or on the verge of poverty.
The indirect indicator of the situation with the income is the level of high debt ratio that is always discussed again if you take statistics of the Bank of Russia. It's all seen there, how many Russians have 2 or 3 loans, how many families spend not only 50% but around 80% of their monthly income. There are Russian regions where people have to give away 105% of their monthly income. 105. This is what real people's incomes are and how deep in poverty the Russian population lives. Russians are in deep trouble.
Some economists think the ruble could fall even further after the election.
Meanwhile, Finland has started erecting barriers at 4 of the 9 border crossings with Russia in a bid to stop the inflow of illegal immigrants. Finland administration says the rising flow of migrants has been orchestrated by Moscow in revenge for Finland's defense cooperation with the United States.
Finland will erect barriers at 4 of its 9 border crossings with Russia from midnight on Friday. It wants to stem an increase in migrants that Helsinki says have been orchestrated by Moscow in revenge for Finland's defense cooperation with the United States. Here's Finland's Interior Minister, Mari Rantanen, speaking on Thursday.
It's clear that Russian authorities have facilitated people in crossing the border from Russia to Finland. It's possible that this form of illegal entry that we are now experiencing could grow and intensify quickly and significantly. It's already putting a strain on Finnish authorities.
Helsinki angered Moscow when it joined the NATO military alliance in April, after decades of non-alignment following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Kremlin denies Finland's accusations, with the TASS news agency reporting spokesman Dmitry Peskov had said the country was making a big mistake by choosing a path of confrontation. Also speaking on Thursday, Finnish Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen.
Finland's eastern border is also the external border of the Schengen area, the European Union, and of NATO. Finland is well prepared to counter any type of hybrid operations together with our partners and allies. We hope the pressure will ease soon, and we can reopen the border crossings, which are essential for many families, diplomats, and the transfer of necessary goods. Thank you.
According to the border guard, some 300 asylum seekers, mostly from Iraq, Yemen, Somalia, and Syria, arrived in Finland this week. According to officials, nearly 100 had entered the country from Russia by midday on Friday alone. But from Saturday, asylum seekers arriving via Russia will only be allowed to hand in their applications at 2 northern border crossings. Finland shares an 830-mile border with Russia that also serves as an EU external border.
Well, now the artificial intelligence revolution is here and is impacting all aspects of our lives. We were just talking about it. From Hollywood celebrities figuring out how to live with bots to a chat with virtual celebrities. Our next report brings you this week's biggest stories from the AI revolution. You know what they say, right? That saying has changed. All is fair in love, death, and robots.
From actors making peace with bots to why Google wants you to talk to a virtual version of Billie Eilish, this is Generation AI. The Hollywood actor strike came to an end, with AI among the last issues to be hammered out. Union chief negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland hailed the deal.
And for the first time, consent, informed consent, and fair compensation guardrails will be in place around the use of artificial intelligence in our industry.
Among other measures, studios will now have to get an actor's consent before using their image to create a digital replica. NVIDIA has upgraded its flagship AI chip. It's called the H200 and will roll out next year to customers, including Amazon. NVIDIA already dominates the market for AI chips, and its new model will allow services such as ChatGPT to spit out answers even faster. Reuters sources say Google is in talks to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in character AI. The fast-growing chatbot startup allows people to talk with virtual versions of anime characters and celebrities like Billie Eilish. Most of its traffic is coming from users between the ages of 18 and 24, according to data from SimilarWeb. Facebook parent Meta says advertisers will soon have to disclose when AI has been used to alter or create messages related to politics. They'll have to say if the ads portray real people as doing or saying something they didn't. The new rules kick in next year. And ChatGPT creator OpenAI says it wants to work with other organizations to produce datasets to train AI models. It's looking for deals to access material that expresses human intentions in any language. The aim is to produce more nuanced training data that's more conversational in style.
Next up, our dedicated segment from the Israel-Hamas war. It's day 43, updates from the war front coming next. The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. The war between Israel and Hamas has entered the 43rd day. There is no end to the fighting. Various diplomatic quarters have been pushing for humanitarian ceasefire, but the death toll mounts and the bombardment across the besieged Gaza Strip continues. Let's take a look at the top developments from the war front. At least 12,000 Palestinians, including 5,000 children, have been killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza, according to Hamas officials. Over 5,000 children. That's the number given out by the Gaza Health Ministry. This even as 1.5 million Palestinians have been displaced inside the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, a first consignment of fuel has entered Gaza after Israel bowed to United States' pressure for limited deliveries to allow wastewater treatment and the resumption of communications after a two-day blackout. The IDF says Israeli troops will advance to anywhere that Hamas exists, and this includes the southern part of the Gaza Strip, asking people to move towards the coastal parts of Gaza. Now, Gaza's main telecommunication companies, Paltel and Jawal, have confirmed the partial restoration of telecom services in various parts of Gaza. This, even as Israeli attack in Khan Yunis has killed 26, according to the latest reports that are coming in. Now, in what can be touted as a fresh indication by the Israeli side that it plans to attack Hamas in South Gaza, Israel issued a warning to Gazans in the southern city of Khan Yunis to move out of the line of fire and closer to humanitarian aid. Mark Regev, an aide to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, told a media portal that we're asking people to relocate. I know it's not easy for many of them, but we don't want to see civilians caught up in the crossfire, unquote. Now, this move could force hundreds of thousands of Gazans who fled south from the Israeli assault on Gaza City to move again, along with the residents of Khan Yunis, just a city of more than 4 lakh, worsening a dire humanitarian crisis. Israel had launched its operation in search of the hostages as much as in pursuit of the Hamas terrorists. It's not clear whether the hostages have been moved to the south part of the Gaza Strip now that the operation in the north is nearing completion. Meanwhile, let's take you through the map of the Gaza Strip. Now that the Gazans in the southern city of Khan Yunis have been asked to move out of the line of fire, people who had taken shelter in the north, about more than 1.77 lakh people in the Rafah crossing and over 2.90 lakh people in Khan Yunis, face the fears of displacement. That's the map that you can see. The north portion is where the IDF expansion began, and then people were asked to move southwards, even as lakhs of people within a meager time frame of about 72 hours started moving towards the south portion of the strip. The southern part of the Gaza Strip was also attacked. People are asking questions in terms of where do they go and is anywhere safe in the Gaza Strip. To the north, where heavy bombardment and shelling is underway, houses have been destroyed or remain in complete tatters. Meanwhile, people, like the visuals that you're seeing on your screens, are constantly moving towards the south despite warnings from the IDF. Do remember, these are pre-conflict numbers. Exact and up-to-date numbers are hard to come by. There are probably many more people in Khan Yunis right now, and those people who are barely getting by now have to find some other place to go to. Israel is not being very specific about where these people should go now. They are saying that the whole of Gaza can become part of their combat operation. There are slight reports that they've been asked to head towards the coastal towns, to small safe zones in the coastal areas. Now, as such, the Israeli attempt to empty out Khan Yunis has only fueled concerns that the IDF plans to push out all Gazans from the strip, likely in the direction of the Rafah crossing and the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. This even as Israel Defense Forces spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari stated that country's troops will advance to anywhere that Hamas exists, including the southern part of the Gaza Strip. And Hagari's statement comes amid growing concerns about Israelis' plans to expand military operations in parts of the south of the Gaza Strip, where people have sought refuge from fighting. Israel has asked civilians to flee to the southern city and move into a smaller safe zone in the coastal town of Mawasi.
אנחנו נחושים להמשיך ולהתקדם. הדבר הזה יקרה בכל מקום שבו נמצא חמאס, והוא נמצא גם בדרום הרצועה. הוא יקרה בזמן, במקום ובתנאים שהכי טובים לצה"ל. אנחנו ממשיכים להעמיק את הפעילות המבצעית בבית החולים שיפה, לאתר תשתיות תת-קרקע, איתרנו היום עוד תשתיות תת-קרקע, ולאסוף כל פיסת מידע על החטופות והחטופים.
But the effects of this particular conflict are being felt in far-flung areas. In the United States, protesters gathered at the Ann Arbor in Michigan in the United States to protest against the war going on in Gaza. Protesters could be seen waving flag, raising pro-Palestinian slogans inside the university building. Well, they could be heard chanting slogans like, "The people united will never be defeated." Police vehicles were also at the spot to keep a check on the protesters and prevent any untoward incident. The United States has seen a wave of protests in several cities in support of Palestinians ever since the start of the war. And it's not just pro-Palestinian support. The United States has also witnessed several pro-Israel protest marches as well. The West, Europe, Latin America, Asia, Southeast Asia, it's all pretty much the same. A group of activists took to the streets in South Korea's capital, Seoul, calling for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. The activists put on display about 2,000 pair of shoes on the streets of downtown Seoul, symbolizing the Palestinian victims killed in the ongoing war. Activists hoisted signs calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and could also be heard chanting slogans like "Free Palestinians."
하는 동안 우리 함께 계신 분들께서는 전시 모든 희생자들을 생각하며 묵념하도록 하겠습니다.
Stop fueling the Israeli war, free Palestinians. These are chants and slogans that we've been hearing from across the world. But in the midst of the ongoing tensions, an unexpected symbol has emerged on the streets. It is the watermelon. Now, for those closely following the Israel-Gaza war, the watermelon has transcended its identity as a mere fruit. In recent weeks, protesters have incorporated watermelons into their demonstrations, distributing chunks of the fruit and even adorning themselves with watermelon-themed imagery. This seemingly curious choice holds deep significance for pro-Palestinian demonstrators. Well, now take a look at this. The watermelon, traditionally a part of Palestinian iconography, serves as a symbolic substitute for the Palestinian flag. When sliced open, the fruit reveals the flag's distinctive colors of red, white, black, and green. There you have it. Moreover, the watermelon has become a practical alternative to displaying the Palestinian flag, which has faced bans and restrictions. Now, Israel's national security minister earlier this year instructed the removal of the flag from public spaces, prompting activists to adopt the watermelon as a creative form of protest. Now, in a sense, the watermelon has been claimed by the Palestinians as being Palestinian. It's an iteration, a way of saying that they do have fruits in their land as well. The controversies surrounding the Palestinian flag, coupled with restrictions imposed on its display, has fueled the adoption of innocuous symbols like the watermelon by activists. This is evident in a campaign where watermelon posters were affixed to taxis in protest of arrests related to waving Palestinian flags. The use of watermelon emoji on social media serves as a dual purpose as well. Beyond its representation of the flag, it functions as a coded language for supporters of the Palestinian cause. Activists argue that using such symbols and coded language helps avoid suppression by tech companies, a concern that is heightened by the erroneous removal of millions of pro-Palestinian social media posts in the year 2021, attributed to glitches in artificial intelligence software on platforms like Facebook, Twitter, now known as X. Now, in the midst of Israel-Hamas conflict, the watermelon has become more than just a fruit. It has become a powerful symbol of identity, resistance, and a creative expression of solidarity. As the situation unfolds, the significance of this unexpected icon continues to evolve on the streets and across social media platforms. Like we promised, climate change is important. Global climate story is something that we must talk about. Our full-blown segment on climate change stories coming up next. First up to Iceland, where Iceland is preparing for a likely volcanic eruption amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity. The country is on an alert after a number of earthquakes hit the island nation, leading to giant cracks ripping through the ground.
Steam rising from giant cracks that have ripped through Grindavik, Iceland, could be seen from a Coast Guard helicopter on Friday. The country is preparing for what experts believe is a likely volcanic eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula, amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity.
From midnight to about 8 o'clock this morning, there were, I think, 600 new earthquakes. So the outlook is rather bleak, in my opinion.
Geophysicist Ari Trausti Gudmundsson says the probability of an eruption is high.
People now wait in anxiety what is going to happen to the town. If the eruption really occurs, it could spare the town to a large extent. It could also, the lava flow, simply bury the town. So we don't know really which scenario is the most likely one.
Aerial views of the nearby Blue Lagoon, one of Iceland's most famous tourist attractions, showed the geothermal spa completely deserted. Authorities have evacuated nearly 4,000 people from the area and were preparing to construct a large dike designed to divert lava flows around a geothermal power plant that provides hot water to the entire peninsula.
Check the news. I've been expecting it to start.
Evacuees wanting to go back into town to pick up belongings on Thursday had to queue at a roadblock before they were either driven into Grindavik in emergency vehicles or accompanied by emergency personnel.
It's like sitting in a very boring movie, but you're stuck there. You can't get out of it. It's unreal. It's hard to digest.
Other residents also said the waiting for the eruption was the worst part.
My house is okay, but it's on the red area, so it has collapsed. The earth has collapsed about 1 meter or something. We don't know if we're gonna have a home or what, because if it doesn't erupt, we don't know anything.
From Iceland, cutting across to Africa's Kenya, where landfills are seeing a rise in plastic waste. Even as several countries are coming together to discuss a global treaty on plastic pollution, locals in Kenya are also contributing in the fight against plastic pollution. Our next report tells you how a local company is switching to eco-friendly packaging, highlighting the growing trend of producers taking the responsibility for product disposal themselves.
This is Kenya's Dandora landfill, Nairobi's main dumping ground, and one of the largest landfills in the world. It's filled with single-use plastic, despite major steps taken in recent years by Kenya to reduce its environmental footprint. The country is urging for a strong, binding agreement on plastics, as international delegates gather there to discuss creating the first-ever treaty to contain plastic pollution. Locals say a shift in mindset is already happening. In 2017, Kenya imposed the world's toughest law against plastic bags. Kenyans producing, selling, or even using plastic bags risk imprisonment of up to 4 years or fines of $40,000. It recently expanded its waste management law, which now puts the responsibility on producers to properly dispose of their products instead of consumers. Kenyan dairy products firm Biofoods has embraced the new legislation. It's replaced its white PET polyethylene terephthalate milk bottles to clear ones. Rosalind Raru is head of sustainability at the company.
We've gotten very positive feedback from the recyclers because it's more recyclable than the previous white PET that we were using.
Dominic Kagwe's company is among those recyclers.
Clear PET is a better devil to live with because we can easily be able to fully recycle it and get it back, into the market, avoiding virgin products coming into the market.
According to the Environmental Investigation Agency, virgin plastics have reached unsustainable levels. It remains a significant environmental issue in Kenya, but Raru says the recent legislation is helping shift Kenyans' mindsets.
A couple of years ago, when we tried out this project, we didn't get as much positive feedback as we're getting from the consumers right now, which for us just proves that our customer base and the Kenyans in general have become more environment conscious.
And with that, we've completely run out of time, and it's a wrap on this edition of Top Stories. This is Kabir Naqvi signing off. Keep watching News9 Live for all the latest details and updates.
Hello everyone, Namaskar. I'm music composer Ricky Cage. 3-time Grammy Award winner and a United Nations Goodwill Ambassador. And you're watching me on First Person on News9 Plus.
This and more streaming now on the world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
Israel is a very important IT-based country.
TCS or Infosys or Wipro have a few hundreds of employees based out of Israel.
More than 500 multinational organizations, including Intel, Google, and Microsoft, have their offices in Israel. And this war is not sustainable for them.
Israel is the market leader when it comes to the global technology sector in cybersecurity.
Employees of global multinationals like Intel, Microsoft, Google, who have a much larger presence out there, what they will be looking at is actually moving some of those headcounts to geographies like India.
The Indian IT industry has a significant presence in Israel with top Indian companies present there. This includes Tata Consultancy Services, which set up base in Israel in 2005 and has over 1,000 employees. And among other Indian IT companies in Israel are HCL, which has around 130 employees, and Tech Mahindra, which recently tied up with Israel-based defense electronics ELTA systems. So Wipro also has around 80 employees